I'm doing a voiceover because I don't like how things are looking today on me. So anyways, I'm doing a horsehair braid today. I'm not gonna candy coat it. I'm gonna show it like it is. I'm gonna show you the mistakes. This is my story of doing a horsehair braid. I hope you watch it until the end. I did my best to try to explain it, but I have a little bit of an ADD brain. So please forgive me for that, and please watch till the end, and hopefully you'll learn something about how to put a horsehair braid on a gown that has yards and yards and yards of ruffles. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing we did was we determined that these needed to come up a whole horsehair braid's width. So I'm just pinning. I want to see what it feels like after it's all pinned without taking it out, without taking the horsehair out. As much as I wanted to keep it relaxed and slow, I had to speed things up because I had yards and yards of horsehair braid to get through. But I had my helpers, my pins, and my little faithful buddy down there, Zebby B, aka Zebulon, always with me. That took forever, at least 3 hours. I can't remember now, I didn't write it down. I still have a little bit left hanging on there. Those are the points on the sides. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do with those, so I left them on while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And then a little tea, a little coffee. Now to determine the hem. So I'm measuring the horsehair braid, and it's getting a little frustrated. Oh, where is that soft music? Need to relax. I have 3 inches of horsehair here, and I want to reattach it back to the bottom of this hem. Now, as I'm editing it and playing it back and talking to myself, I can see that it was easier than what I was making it. But I didn't have that, what did they say, hindsight 2020 thing? I didn't have that when I was trying to figure this out. So I had to go back and forth with my measurer. And there you have it. me working on it. Stay positive, because everybody on YouTube needs you to be positive. We don't want to act like there's ever anything negative when we're doing something, like getting something wrong. Okay. Smooth this out. Oh, let me take these pins out of the way. They're half of what my problem is right now. So I did this. This is what I had originally. And what I wanted was up here. So that's going to tell me that I want my hem right here. But that's not my top hem. That's where I want to sew. And I still need this. Okay, if this looks confusing, it is. Because I forgot to talk about cutting the fabric first. First, I have to cut off the fabric. And my dog is like, what is she doing? So first I tried my electric shears, and they were doing okay. I needed to take off 3 inches. They made a little bubble there, so I would have to compensate for that when I start adding the horsehair braid. I double check with the measuring, and then I decide what I'm going to do is flip what I just cut over and lay it on top of the next section that I want to cut and use that as my guide, and then keep cutting all the way around using that as my guide. That's the way that I did it, and this is my story, so I'm telling you how I did it. And then we'll take it to the next step. After working on it, after taking off all the braid and then cutting one section, I watched a few more videos and I was afraid I was doing it wrong. And one thing that I watched, they were saying that you had to match the sides and then bring it to a point and then cut it, and it will come out more even that way. So that's what I was trying to do here. I was on the back and I was going to pin all these together, and then I was going to cut it and make it more even. And I think the more videos I watched, I think the more confused that I got, because I was trying to employ all these different techniques from a bunch of different people, and sometimes you just got to go with what you know and believe that you can do it. I finally managed to find all of the layers on the second tier and get them all cut off 3 inches. I still have the bottom to do, but before I do the bottom, I'm going to reattach the horsehair. So I'm halfway through. This is what it looks like. Okay, because I didn't film the first step in attaching the braid, I'm going to show you. You put your fabric down. So this is going to be the gown, right side up. Now I have it to the left of my machine, and I'm sewing. This is my machine right here. Now I'm going to put my braid on top of the gown, and I'm going to match the width of my braid to the edge over here. because I want this is the raw edge of the gown. I'm coming up the 3 inches, and this is where I'm going to sew on the left side of my braid. So on the left side of my braid, I'll do about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch seam all the way down. I'll pin it first because it's really important because this braid likes to wiggle and do crazy things. So you want to try to hold it down as much as you can with the pins. Now, once that's attached, that's where I pick up with my hair being in the video so much. The 23 minutes that I filmed, I had to cut it down because my hair was in it. My hair was in the horsehair braid, and it wouldn't have been helpful at all to see. So now we'll go to that part, which is still you're going to be turning the fabric. The braid, the horsehair braid will come around to the front. You're not going to press because you can't press horsehair braid. It'll melt. And now, again, you're going to be sewing on the left side of the braid, which is where we'll pick up right now. Lord, please help me with this. Help me to get this job done quick and efficiently. In Jesus' name, amen. You're going to want to put your stitch length to 3 or above because it'll help with this process. Here I am on my brand new Juki 8700H. I have these needles that I do not know how to interpret the numbers. I looked it up. It still doesn't make sense to me. I know that you're supposed to use a ballpoint needle when you're working with horsehair from the videos that I watched. And I didn't have time to order a ballpoint needle, nor did I know, like I said, how to interpret those numbers. So if anybody can tell me what on that brand you have a ballpoint needle, I don't know. Just don't know how to do it. So let's go back to my story. And my hair is in the way, and I apologize. I tried taking it out as much as I could. That left me with hardly any video. Usually I want my hair in things because it's fallen out, but this time not so much. Here we go. Horsehair braid has a mind of its own, just like my hair. It wiggles, and if you are sewing along and you get something that I call a ricochet, you'll know what that means. It scares the daylights out of you because it's like a snag on a nylon that happens. But the way to deal with that is you just take a pair of scissors, you find where that snag is, and you just release it. And then the horsehair will go back to behaving again. That's something that you just have to do on your own and see it to know what I'm talking about. The key for this is not to push the horsehair, but guide it. And on the left, I am taking the fabric and I am kind of gently moving it so that it doesn't have any wrinkles while I'm sewing. And I have, as I said before, I have flipped the horsehair over, and now I'm sewing on the inside of the gown, or no, the wrong side of the gown to put the horsehair on top of it. Because when you're done, you're going to have this be the inside, just like anything else. You want your stitches to be on the inside. Just like if you were making a seam, you have seams on the inside, usually. Now, I had these points on this dress with this braid that created the wiggle on the sides. That's what I call it, the wiggle or the ruffle. Now, originally, they were folded over, and so I tried to replicate that as I was sewing. And what I found was that I had to sew it first and then go back and take the loose horsehair braid and then make a V and then sew a V into it. I'm coming up on the seam here, and this is where they had the folded over darts or V's, like I just said, originally on the original hem. But I'm finding you can never exactly replicate, well, especially with this stuff, the hem that was there before, um, and with the yardage that they had too. I had about 12 inches or more left over, and I was so afraid that I did something wrong when I took it all off. And I'm trying to make this work. I'm trying to fold it over and pin it and then sew it. And because this is how when I took it off of the gown originally, this is how it was. It was laying flat, only in a dart like that. But it was not working. No matter what I tried to do, I tried to gently force it to work. And I used, a lot of good amount of pins there. And as I tried to sew it down, I even tried a little bunching where the seam was, thinking that, I could allow the bunching because it would be hidden at the seam. And as you can see, it turned the dart the wrong way, and
not lining up with the
when
seam.
I got done and I sewed it and I assessed it, I did not like the way it looked. So out the pins came, and the easiest way that I found was just to, even though it felt like it was going to skew the whole thing off, was just to lay it flat and then keep sewing with my left hand, keeping the gown flat and not rumply, and then with my right hand just gently allowing the horsehair braid to go through the sewing machine. I'm going to try to see if I caught this, because again, when I was doing this, my focus was just trying to get this done. Probably not the best video to try to make when you're working with horsehair the first time.
Flag, and I was like,
yeah, I ended up taking it all out.
Do?
I didn't like how it looked, so out came the seam ripper.
It was hours and hours.
And then again, I flattened it out and then just kept going. And then I had a little bit of a bunch here and there with the braid, and that's when I picked it up from the middle and then made a dart with it. And I wished I had the gown still here so I could take a picture of that. I hope it made sense. Where I had cut and I had that little rumple on the side, there was a hole there. So I had to redo that. You have to keep checking and making sure that you're staying and catching seams just like any other gown, any other hem that you do. And then I just redid that, and all these little snaggy looking things on the top of the braid there, they were there when it came off of the dress. That one line, that's where I did have to clip into when it snagged on me. That pantyhose snag thing that I was telling you about earlier, which you have to experience for yourself. Finally, I just got, after a long while, I finally got through this, and now I'm going to show you what it looks like, because this is enough of my story. I think you got the picture. So this is the end of my story of putting on a horsehair braid. If you're still with me, you get to see how messy my sewing room is. But you know what? It's lived in. What can I say? I wished it was IKEA perfect, but it's not. This is the girl. She was the cutest little thing. This is what she looked like. The ruffles hit the floor. And now they are still wiggling and they're where they're supposed to. And the bottom one, I just folded it over onto itself and sewed it up. That's what I should have done with the first one. And I think it looks fine. So what do you think?